URC final, folks, and it's Leinster who get themselves their first title in the rain in Dublin pretty emphatically, 32 points to 7. Soon as they won that first penalty at scrum time, it felt like that was a psychological edge, because for the Bulls, that scrum's been a weapon all season and they needed to get on top. With the rain, you thought it was going to be possible, but if anything, I feel like the rain didn't help the Bulls, especially with their handling at times, and some of those dynamic moments which you expected maybe the Bulls might be able to pull Sebastian de Klerk or Kane Moody to do something electric. It was more, Jack Conan, Geordie Barrett that come out with the highlight level moments from this one. We'll go through some of the key events and the stats, and then I might go back to bed, because this game started at 4 in the morning my time, which is not the worst kickoff time, but certainly involved rolling out of bed. And I saw there was no Gibson Park as well. I thought maybe this is a troubling one for Leinster. A lot of question marks about Leinster's kind of big game mentality in recent years, but first scrum on 3 minutes, and Leinster win themselves a penalty. Big psychological advantage, I feel. I mean, they didn't get total dominance at the scrum. It certainly had its kind of swings and roundabouts, but neither side was able to get totally on top. And if anything, I didn't count the scrum penalties, but I'm pretty sure Leinster won a few more, especially once like Slimani came on too. But that initial scrum penalty phases in the Bulls territory. Bulls concede a penalty at the breakdown, 5 metre line out time. Jack Conan, massive power. No Caelan Doris, obviously injured, but Jack Conan stepping up to the plate. Huge try, and converted by Prendergast. So about as good a start as you could have wanted for Leinster, because not only is it a scrum penalty, but it ends up in a try. 7 points to 0. Home crowd absolutely loving it. Then we get a bit of a TMO, which had me a little bit concerned as well that we were going to get a kind of overly active interjecting TMO, but this was the exception rather than the rule, thankfully, just for like a bit of a shove. I thought the ref had dealt with it on the field, but they slow-mo it down, and Harold Forster's got his hand in McCarthy's face on the ground, so that ends up getting pinged, which is not ideal for the Bulls, because they actually would have had a line-out down in Leinster's end. And then we get Geordie Barrett. Like, they signed Geordie Barrett to do big things in a limited time in a Leinster jersey, and he does one really massive thing. I mean, lots of massive things in this game, but one particularly highlight level moment when, like, after a forward pass a minute earlier, to be fair, it wasn't like he had a perfect game, but he's chasing a box kick, and as he gets to it first, doesn't try to grab it, just volleys the thing with his big right hoof, and then is able to put the hammer down. I mean, alongside Tommy O'Brien. Tommy O'Brien could have possibly beaten him to the ball, but he let Geordie have it, I think. He's able to chase it down, force it down, and it is a second try for Leinster before we're even at the quarter of an hour mark with the conversion, 14 points to 0. Couple of bits of magic. Conan and Barrett. Not a lot has gone right for the Bulls, to be honest. Prendergast kicks a 50-22. LaRue kicks a cross-field kick in his own 22 later on, which ends up in the hands of James Lowe. Fortunately for the Bulls, James Lowe knocks it on. But yeah, man, the Bulls haven't had a lot going their way, looking maybe a little bit rattled, having to chase the game 14-0 down. The Bulls did win their first penalty at scrum time on 19 minutes, which you thought maybe this is going to be a bit of a momentum shifter, but every time you thought that, like, a line out would be lost, or there would be a knock on, or like I said, some kick would kind of be fluffed. So it was no momentum for the Bulls being gathered. And after a bit of a kicking duel, Leinster end up with themselves another 5 metre line out shot. Josh van der Fleur goes over from another massive old maul. Misconversion, but 19 points to 0 in Dublin is looking a long way back for the Bulls at that moment. And you felt like if the Bulls can't get the handling right, like dropping high balls that they were getting sent their way, it could get really ugly. I mean, it it did get pretty ugly in the end. They didn't get nilled, but the Bulls did, like by the 31st minute, get themselves into Leinster's 22. I think maybe that was their first entry of the match. They did manage to win a penalty, had a scrum, had line-out maul drives, went like 17 phases up the guts. Eventually had to resort to a dinking kick, which Prendergast is able to mark easily enough. So win for Leinster's defence, and then another shot before half-time for the Bulls. Leinster getting a penalty conceded at the breakdown. Touch, maul, collapse, maul again. 14 phases, wide to the backs, and a forward pass. So 2 real chances for the Bulls in the final 10 minutes to at least narrow the gap to a 2-score game. Can't get it done. Let's take a 19-0 lead into the sheds. Bulls have edged the possession and the territory in that first half. Leinster's had to make 86 tackles to the Bulls' 46. Kicks from hand, though. Leinster have been putting a boot to ball at the right times and causing problems for the Bulls. Like Prendergast has had 10 of the 26 kicks. Geordie Barrett's had 4. McGrath's had 4. And the line breaks is 3-zip. So those kind of real, true X-factor moments haven't been coming from some of the Bulls guys that you thought. It's been Leinster in that first half. Bulls start the second half with a knock-on. Like, just unable to really wrestle any momentum out of this game. Leinster won a penalty at the scrum. They slot the 3 to make it 22-0. So at this point, the Bulls need 3 converted tries just to get it back to a 1-score game. But they did manage to, turn the bit of pressure on. Porter conceded a scrum penalty. Wilco Lowe got on top of him, so you thought maybe the Bulls can get a bit of momentum going. Again, they mauled it. They had advantage. They went again. They mauled it. Try time. Aka van der Merwe. At last, the Bulls get something actually, connected together. Split off from the main maul. Well-worked try, 22 points to 7. It's still not really back to being game on, but it's at least something for the Bulls to build on in the second half. Sebastian de Klerk then knocks on a bit of a nothing kick from Prendergast, so I feel like the momentum starts to slip through the fingers as quickly as it had accumulated. And yeah, you could see the Bulls coaches with their heads in their hands in the coaching box when that happened. But the Bulls did manage to win the resulting scrum penalty. So you thought maybe it's... No. Is the door creaking open? No. The Bulls knocked it on from the resulting play. So, I mean, if you're a Bulls fan, you'd be pretty frustrated that you saved some of your worst handling for the final. Slimani and Kelleher come on for the Leinster lads. Achia Sneeman comes on as well. You feel like that injection from the bench certainly adds some punch to Leinster's game, because Leinster really from here on get their best period of the second half. They get a bunch of pressure going. They opted for a 3 when they won a penalty, but Prendergast had one of his yips where he didn't do a good job with that shot, but he got the next one from a similar position not too long later to make it 25-7. And LaRue at one point knocks on a ball which is chucked to his ankles. To be fair, it's a pretty poor pass, but he shells it. He hoofs the thing away in frustration. He knew the game was done. And then there's icing on the cake for Leinster. 72 minutes. Finton Gunn, who wasn't even supposed to be playing in this game, he's able to complete a nice wraparound move with Ross Byrne from a scrum. He did well to finish it. Wee nuggety halfback. And 32 points to 7. Ross Byrne with a conversion. So, very, very comfortable enough win for Leinster. Like I said, all the key moments went their way, basically. Like the line breaks is 7-0. 7-0. 4 tries to 1. Scrum, as I said, more penalties conceded probably by the Bulls in this game, but I didn't count them. Penalty count overall is 11-8. So the Bulls were on the wrong side of the penalty count. Not egregiously so, but enough. The line out, Leinster is 100%. You save a complete performance at line out time for the final, whereas the Bulls had a few stolen there, 83% from them. Ryan Baird was certainly very disruptive from a Leinster perspective on their defensive line out. Kicks from hand, 42-33. Fair bit of kicking in the rain. But the Bulls won at least one of the 2 of the kicking deals, but Leinster did pretty well, to push The Bulls guys back with boot. But defensively, McCarthy, 14 tackles. Conan, 14 tackles. Porter, 12 tackles. Barrett, 11 tackles. Like, Leinster looked pretty comfortable on defence in the limited times they were under pressure. Marco van Staden had 13 carries. Marcel Coetzee, 13 carries. It wasn't really a game where you saw much of like Sebastian de Klerk or Kane Moody as much kind of ball in hand as we have seen them in the past. Geordie Barrett, 10 carries. He was certainly busy. Ryan Baird, man of the match in this one. But yeah, Leinster finally get themselves their hands on the URC trophy. Big congratulations to them. Big ups to their scrum, man. There was so much pressure on that coming into this one. Clarkson and Porter, I think largely stood up to the test and then bolstered by the lads from the bench. That's the UR season done for the 2024-2025 season, folks. I think it's been a pretty good one and a pretty emphatic victory for Leinster at the end. Might have been nice to be a bit closer, but for you Leinster fans, no kind of high blood pressure moments in this one. You guys let us know your thoughts. If you want to buy us a coffee, I could use one. It is now 6:12 a.m. in the morning. There's a link down in the description to buy me a coffee if you've enjoyed any of the URC coverage over the season. But cheers, folks. It's been a great one to cover. Now we look forward to some internationals and a Lions tour. But you guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.